Article 2, Section 9, Rural Indiana, 2 years before Election Day. The man in the black sweatshirt looked to be in his late 20s. He did not glare at Hall for long. Before he could speak, he turned his head at the sound of rustling leaves. A pair of teenagers took advantage of his inattention and tried to make their way into the woods together. "Hey!" he yelled, pointing at the pair. "Get back here!" The teenagers stopped. The boy tried to act nonchalant, but the girl shook her fist and stomped her foot in objection. When he pointed, Hall noticed the one gold stripe that adorned the older man's sleeve. "Hey, I pay attention to this one bum here, and you try to sneak off with Jenny to play tonsil hockey in the woods?" "Hey, Ozzy, my name is Christine," yelled the girl. "Whatever," muttered the man in the sweatshirt. "You're all the fucking same." Hall watched the now red-faced man as he shouted. Soon, his attention returned to Hall. "Now you," he growled. "Where the hell were you?" "I know. You got your hood up. You were getting high by the swamp like you always do, weren't you?" "Yeah," Hall whimpered, lowering his head. "Damn it, kid, get back to work. Here they come." The man turned around and looked uphill expectantly. Following the man's gaze, Hall saw a line of stocky young men, dark-haired and olive-skinned all, marching in pairs. They passed through the run-down gate and descended the hill. Each of the pairs lugged a 100-gallon vat of stinking sludge that was suspended between them by a yoke that fit over their shoulders. One of the olive-skinned guys wasn't in the pair. He carried nothing. The man in the gold-striped sweatshirt turned back to Hall. "You'd think the chance to be an ARA and get promotions would motivate you guys. All you guys care about is getting loaded and getting laid and smashing things. But this organization is much more than that. You put in your time and you could really start making money. I spend all my goddamn time getting you guys off your asses. No wonder why so few of you get promoted. All you have to do is show a bit of initiative, and even that's too much." Hall pulled his hood further over his face. "Yeah, I'd be ashamed too if I were you. If I could just get a bit more out of you guys, I'd have my second stripe by now. Then it would be one of you guys ordering people around." The two teenagers, noticing that Ozzy was launching into one of his speeches, began sneaking off again. They didn't get far. "I don't even have to watch the Mexicans this close," he shouted as he turned to the two horny teenagers. "They're Guatemalans," shouted Christine. "Are you going to work, or are you going to correct my geography?" Ozzy yelled. Hall looked around, hoping his camera would record properly. "Watch this," Ozzy said to Hall. The man gestured to the unpaired Guatemalan, who came right over. "Yes, sir," said the Guatemalan. "Hey, Esteban, I need you to translate," said Ozzy. Esteban nodded. Ozzy flourished his watch. "If you Mexicans can have these vats back to the porta-potties in 5 minutes, you'll all get to go to work tomorrow on the van instead of the truck." When those words were translated, there were strained murmurs of approval from the line of porters trying to manage their loads. "Also, when I take you to work in the van, we'll stop at McDonald's on the way. You won't have to eat those army meals." The line noticeably sped up when those words were rendered into Spanish. One by one, each pair dumped the sewage contained in their vats into the stream that flowed down the hill. Most of the pairs hastened up the hill to return the barrels to the porta-potties to claim their prize. Not so for one pair. After discharging their load, they dropped their yoked barrel and jogged down the hill. "Hey, Jenny! Grab your boyfriend and get those Mexicans back!" yelled Ozzy. "That's Christine!" yelled the teenager. "Whatever! Go get them back!" Christine took her boyfriend by the hand, and they jogged after the fleeing Guatemalans. It wasn't long before they caught them. "You know," Ozzy explained to Hall, "a trip inside of a van instead of some stuffy trailer truck, a trip to McDonald's, that really means something to these immigrants. After what they've been through, that's what you expect, isn't it?" Ozzy looked at Hall for his reaction. Hall just nodded. Christine and her boyfriend managed to coax the escapees back up the hill. "I'm not going to punish them this time," said Ozzy to Hall as he watched the migrants climb. "If you're too hard on them, they'll really try to escape. It's easier to bribe them with fast food. They'll work real hard for that." When the two Guatemalans reached Ozzy, the man in the black sweatshirt had Esteban translate once again. "What are you going to do if you leave? Stand in the lot of some home improvement store and wait to be picked up by a general contractor? You think they'll pay enough to find rent money? You think you'll get an apartment? You guys don't even have any relatives around here. We checked before we shipped you here." The Guatemalan said something in Spanish that Esteban didn't bother to translate. Ozzy didn't seem to care. "Stay here. You get food, you get a bed. At least it's better than that camp you were in after you crossed the border into Mexico." The two Guatemalans nodded after Esteban's translation. They picked up the barrel they had been carrying together and made their way up the hill. Ozzy beckoned the rest of the Anti-Rus to follow him. Hall followed too. Hall was the last of the group to cross under the rotten gate. Article 2, Section 10, Mall, Indianapolis suburbs, 2 years before Election Day. Dressed in bright blue yoga pants and a low-cut tank top, Mei Hua strode past the kiosks and cosmetics shops. She smelled the food court before she actually saw it. This was not Mei Hua's usual attire, but the outfit was not out of place in a mall anchored by a health club. She had meticulously searched the online clothing sites for this exact ensemble for this exact occasion. She had come to the food court of the Hoosier Galleria Mall because Indiana Deputy Secretary of State Edwin Hamilton visited here every Sunday morning to eat a pair of cinnamon buns with his cup of coffee. The outfit was meant for his eyes. Buried in one of the thumb drives detailing Hamilton's internet habits, Mei Hua found a piece of actionable intelligence. Hamilton had repeatedly viewed a video called "Asian Fitness Girl Destroys His Cock." Judging by the number of times Hamilton had watched that video, it was one of his favorites. She picked an outfit to match the one worn, at least in the beginning of the video, by the female performer who so aggressively seduced her male counterpart. Mei Hua reasoned she would be more successful if she could enter his life as his sex fantasy made flesh. Arriving at the food court, she saw him right where she had expected, sitting alone at the table for two, nearest the service counter for Horvath's pastries. For Mei Hua, playing the part of a gym bunny meant eating like one. Before approaching the hefty man, she ordered a vegetable stir-fry and a cup of ice water from one of the horrible Chinese food chains that served the mall's customers. Mei Hua changed her walk to carry her tray towards Hamilton's table. She slowed her pace and began shifting her hips side to side with each step. As she did so, she made some last-minute observations of her prey as he sat there stuffing himself from the autumn-brown food carton bearing Horvath's famous swirl logo. He was too engrossed in his food to notice her approach. Today, Hamilton's balding pate was covered by a baseball cap, advertising Titleist golf equipment. A good conversation topic, if things slowed down.
"Is anybody sitting here?"
she asked. "No," Hamilton said without looking up.
"Mind if I join you?"
Hamilton finally looked up from his pastry. A broad smile crossed his face as he took in her appearance. "Sure," he said.
"Hi, my name is Mei Hua Chang,"
she said, sitting down. Throwing her shoulders back, she arranged her food on her tray. Sitting so straight gave the impression of fitness, and it called attention to her low-cut tank top. Mei Hua had briefly discussed with James Olmsted the possibility of getting breast implants to help attract the kind of attention she needed. In the end, she reasoned that her breasts need not be big to be effectively used as bait. What they needed to be was noticeable, but achingly, tantalizingly, out of reach. She could accomplish that with carefully selected clothing and by moving her body in a way that invited attention. "I'm Edwin Hamilton," he said.
"Wait, are you Edwin Hamilton, the Deputy Secretary of State of Indiana?"
Mei Hua asked, feigning delighted, incredulous surprise. "Yes," he said, his eyebrows rising.
"What a coincidence. I had a class in college about state-level politics in the United States. Indiana was one of our case studies."
"Is that where you heard my name?"
"I think so."
"Where do you go to college?"
"I go to school in Boston,"
Mei Hua answered, twisting a lock of her hair as she gazed at him. "Really? Where?"
"Well, actually, it's, Harvard."
"Oh, so you're smart, too."
"Too? What else am I?"
"Well, you're very pretty," Hamilton said, immediately picking up his coffee and taking a sip. "I probably shouldn't have said that," he said, putting down his cup and clearing his throat.
"Why not?"
she asked, offering him a puzzled look. "Because you can get in trouble for talking like that."
"Trouble? How? I didn't know."
"Are you from America?" Hamilton asked with a puzzled look of his own. Mei Hua observed the small jolt of horror that overcame Hamilton. He must have realized what he just said.
What's wrong?
She asked. What's wrong? Stupid me. I shouldn't have said that. That question's also considered offensive.
Why?
For some reason, in America, it's considered rude to notice the fact that somebody is not from this country. It's even ruder to ask where they're from.
That's really strange,
Mei Hua said, wrinkling her brow as if considering his answer.
Anyway, I'm from Shanghai.
You mean in China?
Yes.
How long have you been in the States?
2 years.
Wow. Your English is very, very good for somebody who's only been here such a short time. By the way, that's another thing that Americans consider rude to notice.
In China, men say things like that all the time. It's considered flattering when a mature and experienced man notices a girl like me.
I like the sound of that. Anyway, I'm very pleased to meet you. What did you say your name was again?
Mei Hua.
Mei what?
Mei Hua.
So, was it your politics course that brought you here to Indiana, Mei Hua?
Sort of. I'm traveling around a bit for the summer. I had some friends here in Indiana, but they left for a study abroad program. I'm going to stick around here a bit longer and then move on.
When do you go back to school?
I'm not sure I can.
Why not?
Student loan issues. Something to do with lending to international students. It's kind of complicated.
So, what are your plans then?
I'm not sure. I guess I'll explore until the money runs out and then find something to do. I don't have to go back to China for at least 2 more years.
I'm very sorry to hear about your problems.
I'll deal with it.
Mei Hua stopped talking and began to eat. Hamilton watched her as she focused on her food. After several minutes, Hamilton's pastry and coffee were consumed. He remained at the table, smiling at her. She continued eating for a few more minutes as she noticed that he began to squirm. So, he began, casting about in his mind for a way to revive the conversation. She threw him a lifeline rather than risk having him fail and skulk off, defeated.
Mr. Hamilton, do you play golf?
Yes.
My state politics professor said that there are 2 secrets to getting ahead in American politics, she said, leaning in and smiling coyly at him. Golf was one of them.
It's a wonderful game, Hamilton declared.
I've been hoping to learn how to play, but there's no money for golf equipment and lessons,
Mei Hua said, her lower lip sliding outward towards Hamilton in a pout. Hamilton's breathing quickened. Mei Hua went in for the kill.
Do you think you could teach me?
I don't know. I'm busy all week. Sunday's my day off. I've got the usual Sunday stuff to attend to, the lawn, the kids, the wife, Sunday stuff of a family man, Hamilton babbled.
That's too bad. You seem like the kind of guy who would have something to teach me.
Well, I guess, he stammered.
All the U.S. presidents played golf. Not the old guy they have now, but all the ones before him. My professor said it's a great way to network and get, closer to your colleagues.
You know, Mei Hua, I think I could free up some time this afternoon.
I'd like that.
Hamilton pulled his cell phone out of his pocket and dialed. Hey, babe, he said when he got an answer. I got a call from the office. I've got some issues I need to deal with this afternoon. I won't be able to make it. A pause. I know I promised. Something came up. A pause. Love you too, babe, Hamilton said into the phone. He then turned to Mei Hua. Is 3 o'clock good for you?
Yes.
You want to take my number? Hamilton asked.
Sure,
Mei Hua said, pulling at her phone. So your professor said there were 2 things you need to succeed in American politics.
Yes,
She said with another look to her phone.
but it looks like my ride's here. We'll talk later.
I'm looking forward to talking about your 2 things, Hamilton said, not seeming to realize what he had just said.
See you then.
I look forward to teaching you about the game, he said as she turned and departed. The notion that he had much to teach about golf made Mei Hua want to laugh. The data from his fitness tracker on his Antares watch suggested that his handicap was quite high. Article 2, Section 11. Apartment, Indianapolis suburbs. 2 years before Election Day. On the left-hand screen of his new video editing system, Jonathan Hall assembled the shots that he would use for the preview. On the right-hand screen, he gathered together the clips he would use in the first of his reports. Arnold Nguyen had coached Hall on how to release videos for maximum attention and impact. "You've got to create anticipation," Nguyen had said. "How do you do that?" Hall had asked. "You have to give them what Einstein called the most beautiful thing we can experience." "What's that?" "A mystery. If you pitch your report as a mystery story, people will demand explanations. Start with a short preview that builds anticipation by posing a mystery. Then tell your story in a way that deepens the mystery. Okay? But you've got to think several moves ahead. You realize, of course, that the corporate press is going to attack you for these videos, right? Yes. How do I stop that?" You don't stop them. You can't. So you use those attacks as part of your storytelling plan. How? Part of telling a mystery story is to lead the audience to the proper explanation by showing that the alternative explanations are wrong. How should I do that? You don't. You let the press do that for you. They'll come up with all kinds of crazy defenses and innocent explanations of what you found. Then what? Then you prove with the videos you've taken that the press's arguments are made by dishonest people intending to mislead. A counterattack that shows the press was lying all along will win you this battle, plus future battles as well. Nguyen then showed Hall the basics of using shots and cuts to tell his story. Still, with the many hours of video Hall had captured, it was hard for Hall to know where to start when he sat down in his desk chair in his new editing bay. "Might as well begin at the beginning," he muttered as he grabbed a shot of himself passing through the run-down gate that surrounded the migrant camp. "In the hills of northern Indiana, there sits a place you don't know about. It's been carefully hidden from you," Hall said into the microphone. A quick succession of shots followed. Trucks cruising down the road, the algae-choked pond in the field downhill from the camp. Dozens of Guatemalans crowded into the camp. Like every human settlement, clues to its existence couldn't be hidden forever. They are there to see and smell for anybody who would pay attention. The scene cut to a shot of 6 Quonset huts rusting in the sun, sitting there like rolls of quarters, smushed halfway into muddy ground. The military surplus structures were the first shelters Hall had encountered after he passed through the gate. "We went inside this hidden place. We're going to show you what we found. We are the Hall Media Group. Our mission is to tell you the stories that matter, the stories hidden from you by the politicians and the corporate press." Hall turned his attention from the preview to the first investigative report video. He grabbed a shot that he managed to get of the interior of one of the Quonset huts. Sunlight streamed in through the windows on each end of the structure and through the holes that had rusted through the metal of the bulkheads. All of the available floor space in the hut was taken up by dozens of military cots. Most of them were empty, except for the scraps of bedding strewn over them. Some were occupied by young boys still sleeping at mid-morning. Folded up in the corner of the room lay a pile of military cots, not yet in use. There is no running water. There is little electricity. Sanitary facilities are limited to the portable toilets located on the perimeter of the encampment and to bottles like these, Hall said into the microphone. The shot zoomed in on a urine-filled water bottle. Only a few of the shelters in the settlement were Quonset huts. Hall searched the internet for various types of manufactured temporary housing units. It didn't take him long to find out where the dozens of white rectangular shelters had come from. They were the huts that the Federal Emergency Management Agency supplied when large natural disasters strike a city. On the gabled roof of each hut sat a solar panel. Each unit also had a system to collect rainwater that fell onto the roof and deposited it into a large barrel that sat next to the front door of the shelter. Lines of migrants stood near many of these barrels, waiting to grab some water to bathe themselves or wash a garment. Next to each shelter was a pole that stood about 20 feet high. Atop each pole was a windmill turning languidly in the breeze. Hall continued his narration of his first video report. "The water in these rainwater catchment barrels is not fit for human consumption," Hall narrated. "In our next report, we will show you the cistern that stores drinking water." Hall saved the shots of the shipping containers piled full of military meals ready to eat for his second investigative video. Hall turned his attention back to the screen on his left to work on the preview. Who are these people? Where are they from? What do they do? Who benefits from bringing them into the country? Hall ended the preview with a shot of a two-striped anti-Ra haranguing a group of migrants in Spanish. On the bottom of the screen appeared the subtitles that translated what the man was saying into English. You guys are number 6. Remember, you have a long trip. Don't drink too much before you get on the truck. Now's your chance to use the restroom. None of you want to use the buckets in the truck. With the preview finished, Hall began writing the text that would describe the video for viewers. We think it's important that you know exactly what you are looking at in this video. So you can know what you're looking at, we have taken the footage to an expert for analysis. You can see that if you click here. We're not asking you to believe our expert. If you have a credible reason to disagree, please do not hesitate to write to us with your disagreements. The expert's report said as follows. Based on the request from the Hall Media Group, I have examined the video footage of the North Indiana Migrant Settlement Encampment, NIMSE, which is said to have issues with its sewage system. Let me explain the situation in simpler terms. NIMSE has a basic septic tank system for the toilets used by the staff. However, the living quarters of the approximately 5,000 adults and 1,000 children at NIMSE lack proper sanitation facilities. Their temporary housing doesn't have running water or an effective sewer system. The limited electricity available comes from unreliable wind and solar power. To address the sanitation needs, there are around 100 portable toilets in the resettlement center. Additionally, many residents are away on work assignments during the day, so their daytime toilet needs are taken care of elsewhere. Despite these measures, the amount of sewage generated at NIMSE exceeds the capacity of the holding tank dump stations that are transported off-site. To compensate for this shortfall, makeshift solutions have been created by the people managing NIMSE. These solutions seem to prioritize secrecy rather than building a proper sewage system, which would require heavy machinery and attract unwanted attention. Here's how I think these workarounds function. The sewage is dumped into a channel that leads to a large pond. This dumping occurs periodically, allowing solid waste to settle at the bottom. The water that flows from the pond into the swamp below is somewhat cleaner than before. However, the pond's ecosystem is overwhelmed by the nitrogen and phosphorus in the waste. Although the water undergoes some filtration as it passes through the pond, the lower swamp area will eventually be unable to handle the excessive nutrients. If this continues, the situation will worsen in the near future. Alternatively, the reason for these sewage workarounds might be something as simple as unsuitable ground conditions for installing a proper sewage system. Without personally surveying the area, it's difficult to determine the exact cause. In any case, the healthcare arrangements for the migrants in this area must be challenging for those in charge. Investigating this aspect further could yield valuable insights. Lastly, it's worth noting that there seems to be a significant imbalance between the number of boys and girls among the children at NIMSE, but that topic deserves a separate discussion. The rest of Hall's description of the video read, as always, all of the raw footage taken on our investigation has been provided. Just click the links here, 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 or here. If you have a reason to believe that important context or facts inconvenient to any point made in our story have been edited out, please tell us. If you believe that our subtitles are substantially in error, such that they provide an inaccurate impression of what's going on in the videos, again, you may write to us. We gladly accept corrections on any of these accounts. Hall took a few minutes to read what he had written to make sure it was free of errors. When he was satisfied, he clicked the button on the bottom of the screen that said, Publish. Article 2, Section 12. Suburban Indianapolis, 2 years before Election Day. Mei Hua took a wobbly stance and awkwardly gripped the driver. That's not how you hold the club, Edwin Hamilton explained.
It's not?
Mei Hua said with the same pout that had worked on him before. No, you do it like this, he said, stepping behind her. He reached both his arms around her and gripped the club around her hands. Mei Hua wriggled away.
I did not expect you to do that,
she said, glaring at him. I'm so sorry. I was just trying to show you how to hold a club. I didn't mean to.
Maybe this is how things are done in America. It was a big surprise. Is there a different way you can show me?
Okay, let me get my own club. I'll show you like that, he said, casting his glance downward. Hamilton went back to his golf bag and grabbed a driver. He showed Mei Hua once again how to hold the implement, and then how to stand and address the ball as it stood on the tee. When she imitated his position, he directed her to imitate his wind-up and his swing. Mei Hua took several slow swings. Good, said Hamilton, watching her movement. That looks great. She tried to hit her ball, only to bury the head of the club into the ground 10 inches behind the ball.
Oh my, she moaned. That was terrible. I'm really bad at this.
You'll get better, Hamilton reassured her. Everybody's got to start somewhere.
Can you show me again how to swing the club?
Mei Hua asked. Sure, Hamilton answered. He stood next to her and demonstrated the swing.
Maybe it would be better if you taught me the American way.
Hamilton got behind Mei Hua once again and put his arms around her, gripping the club, his hands over hers. Mei Hua giggled. She pushed her behind into Hamilton's protruding belly. Hamilton fought the urge to pull her into his embrace.
Is it good like this?
She asked. Yes, Hamilton said. Now try it on your own. Mei Hua took her swing. The ball flew 15 yards and landed in the rough. Keep working on that shot. You'll get better with practice, Hamilton said.
I'll keep at it.
So, Mei Hua, in the food court, you told me that your professor said that there were 2 things that were essential to succeeding in American politics. Golf was the first one. What was the other one?
Professor Garfield said that the 2 things you need are golf and experience. Both of those things are about making connections with the people who make the decisions. You meet them, you work with them, and you have fun with them. You do those 3 things, you put yourself in a position to succeed.
Have fun with them, huh? Hamilton repeated with a wink.
That's what Professor Garfield said.
You know, I think I have a way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Why would I want to kill birds?
Mei Hua asked. No, it's an American expression. It means to do 1 thing and accomplish 2 goals.
Thank you for teaching me.
Now that I'm teaching you golf, I can get you some experience, too.
How can you do that?
Would you want to work for the Indiana Secretary of State?
What would I do?
I'm not sure. I'll find you something.
Oh, I'd love to get more experience with you,
said Mei Hua. Hamilton smiled. Mei Hua sighed and looked at the ground. She rubbed her chin and thought. It will help you succeed in politics, Hamilton said. If you work for me, you'll learn golf and get experience. Plus, you'll earn money and be able to get back to school.
Do you think I'll be good at it?
I think you'll be really good, Hamilton said. With that, Hamilton strode up to the tee. He gripped his driver and took his swing. The ball sailed 100 feet and landed in the rough halfway down the fairway.
Wow,
said Mei Hua.
I hope I can learn to hit a ball that far.
Hamilton smiled. He took Mei Hua's hand and led her to find her ball in the tall grass.
Which club do I use now?
She asked. Try the 8-iron. Mei Hua picked up the club. She examined the ball, turning her back to Hamilton.
I don't know how to hit the ball with all this grass around, she said.
Let me show you, Hamilton replied, easing his body behind hers. Hamilton guided her hands back and forth, demonstrating his version of a proper golf swing. He backed off so she could make the attempt on her own. The ball sailed 20 yards and landed on the fairway. So, do you think you'll take the job? He asked.
I don't know. Let me think about it,
Mei Hua cooed. Maybe you would make a better decision if you saw where I work. Come by my office. This is Ari Mendelson. I hope you're enjoying Consent. I'd love it if you could show your appreciation for my years of hard work by hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. But why keep this adventure to ourselves? I wrote Kingmaker because I believe its message of keeping control of our own minds is one that America needs to hear. Young men especially will profit from learning the message that lies at the heart of these novels, that the straightest path to happiness is by improving yourself, 1 step at a time, rather than attempting to change others. So, share this audiobook far and wide across your favorite social platforms. See the description below for other ways for you to support my work. Thank you so much for your time and attention.